Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and we're going to do what's called a solo cast because of the importance of our current state of affairs in the economy, the real estate market, and everything important to you. So consider this sort of a disruption to our normal program, but vitally important. So in any case, a little bit of a background. As you may know, I've been in this business for now more than 36 years. This current business cycle is my fifth, and we're clearly in a bear market statistically. That's undeniable, and for all intents and purposes, you might as well assume we're in a recession. First quarter GDP was negative. Second quarter comes out in a couple of weeks, and they keep lowering the estimate. But the reality is that the numbers don't lie. The facts are in, and in the world of real estate, we're already seeing a hit. So economically, every recession has unique circumstances. There are different triggers, things like that. But the fundamentals are always the same. Okay, so we have inflation that keeps going higher and higher. And by the way, it's not 8.5, it's not 9.1, it's a lot more than that. If you take the consumer price index, we call that the basket of goods for American citizens. It includes everything from, like shaving cream up to, cost of housing. Okay. Everything is in there. Poultry, meat, gasoline, you name it. So if you weight all those commodities out, in other words, shaving cream, how often we buy that? Once every 3 months? And what does it cost? Maybe $3. Okay. Inflation on shaving cream is maybe 3 or 4%. But where we spend most of our money is usually on things we also buy most frequently, like gasoline. Okay. Now, gasoline has essentially doubled since February 1st, 2021, probably more than that. Beer has gone up. And I only say that because you go to a gas station, of course, there's a convenience store they're selling beer, which is a different story for a different day, but that's gone up. Milk, eggs, meat, everything you purchase on a regular basis has gone up way more than 8.5 or 9.1%. Some of it's 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%. So real inflation, what you feel in your pocket, cash and pocket real estate, is pretty high. And I know you know that because you feel it. Okay. Look at the cost of housing in the last few years. The cost to buy a house is essentially doubled in most markets. Rents have gone up about 50%. Okay. So we have to take this seriously, and no economy can stand that for any length of time. And when you factor in the government printing money like they were for a couple of years, and both administrations did it, okay? So they started with the Republicans, and the Democrats finished it off. So you just know that the government did that, period. So in any case, when you print money like that, in our case, the U.S. dollar, when the U.S. dollar is backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, this goes back to Nixon administration in the early 70s. He took the dollar off of the gold standard and decided to make it based on essentially what's the GDP of the U.S., okay? Well, people are losing confidence in that GDP of the U.S., okay? And so are foreigners too. And that creates pressure on the cost of money. Money is a commodity, just like trees and rocks and everything else, okay? It has exchange value, and it costs money to use money. If you're going to borrow money, there's a cost to borrowing money. So that cost of borrowing money has also gone up. The rate has doubled since this year. Okay, so when you raise the prices of houses dramatically, then you raise the cost of borrowing money to buy the houses. Obviously, it pulls people out of the market. Now, you'll have people out there saying, well, don't worry, we have a lot of demand. Okay, but supply and demand is a seesaw, all right? So right up till now, demand has been very high on this side, okay? But when you pull people out of the market, and it starts with the upper end market usually, luxury homes, and it works its way down, it pulls people out of the market. So there's a natural inclination for supply to start to go up. So demand goes down, supply goes up. It's a seesaw. You can't have increased demand and increased supply for any length of time. There's going to be a seesaw effect. And that's what's starting to happen. Now, there's an inertia effect, which means it takes time. So what you're seeing now, as far as the practical matters are, the facts, the interest rates and cost and all that, the effect will take weeks and months. Okay. We're already starting to see it across the country. Now, remember, I run the global investor agent team. We've got agents in half the states, from Hawaii to Maine and everywhere in between. And month of June, buyers backed out of 15% of all real estate transactions. Okay, that's another statistic. You can look it up. There also, the volume of transactions this week versus this week last year, according to the title business, people that do your closings, is less than half. So the facts are in. My suggestion is turn off the TV, focus on the data, and not allow yourself to panic. The television will cause you to panic, so turn it off. This is not the time to panic. This is the time to prepare, okay? So how do we prepare? There's a couple of things you can do. And this, I'm going to speak to you if you're a real estate agent directly here, all right? This is really critical. If you were around in the last recession, the circumstances were different that caused the recession, but the fundamentals were the same. We had an overheated market, right? What we didn't have back then was runaway inflation, and interest rates on mortgages actually came down during the recession, thank goodness. But if you go back to the late 70s and early 80s, you had inflation and interest rates went up. Okay, you had those two factors just like we have today. That was really traumatic if you were around for that, and I was. Okay, so in any case, the point is this. When the market goes down, right, half the agents are going to leave. Don't be one of those agents, okay? This is not the need. This is not necessary to panic. It's necessary to plan, not panic, but plan. So what type of a consumer participates more actively in a recession? Is it the owner-occupant or is it the investor? Well, clearly it's investors. Investors are always investing. I'm an investor. We always invest. It doesn't matter what the economy is doing. We just have different strategies for different economies, okay? Now, when the market goes down, we will certainly buy a lot more, and we will buy, bargains, value-add opportunities, and just plain old bargains. We'll buy below market value, and then it's easy to do. There's less competition. And, if smart investors, if you've noticed the last couple of years, some of them have been offloading some other properties they've owned for a long time and depreciated, okay? Quietly, but that's what they're doing. They're stockpiling cash because they know what's coming down the road. It's going to be Christmas time. Now, your job as a real estate agent is to participate in those transactions. Because remember, the real estate itself is not going away. The real estate doesn't disappear. It just changes hands from the left hand to the right hand. That's all that's happening. And you as a real estate agent can participate in that transaction by bringing the buyer and seller together, which is what you already do. You already do that today. And it's interesting. A lot of agents have joined in the last few years because it was so good. And all they got to do is put a sign in the yard and they get 5 offers. They have no idea what's coming. Okay. But if you're experienced and you've been around for more than 10 years, you know what to do. All right. You've seen the movie before. Okay. So the investors obviously get very active. And then as the economy turns, the other people that get active are the banks in the way of foreclosures. So again, statistically, since the moratorium was lifted, about this time last year, last September, actually just year to date this year, foreclosure filings have increased, anywhere from 15% to 90% in almost every market in the country. So you're going to start to see those hit the courts later this year and into next year. It's going to pick up steam as the economy continues to deteriorate. Now, we don't know if it's going to be a short one, a long one, a deep one, a wide one. Nobody knows that. They didn't know it the last time. Some of us were predicting it, and we predicted correctly. And I'm not going to get into predictions here. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to help you plan. Okay. So far, everybody should be okay with where we are on things. By the way, I don't really watch CNN and Fox or any of those guys. I mean, I do when I'm at my family and friends' houses, but what I do is I go and I Google the congressional record so you can see factually what actually happens in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Okay. And you can also watch C-SPAN. I don't sit around watching C-SPAN all day, but it's unfiltered, unbiased news. Okay. That's what you want. Okay. Go online. Every publication is going to be biased because they're paid by advertisers to say certain things. But nonetheless, look at Forbes, look at Fortune, look at Barron's, Kiplinger's. Get your financial data from a number of sources. They're all going to interpret it, but you just focus on the facts. Okay. And you'll know the facts will tell you what to do. So here's what you do. You want to start, if you haven't already, and boy, if you haven't already done this, guys, it's not too late, but this is not the time to wait around and wait and see. This is the time to take action, prepare ahead of time. And I'm an old Boy Scout, and if you may be a Boy Scout too, our number one motto is be prepared. That's what smart, successful people do. You're prepared. So in our team, we use a marketing campaign called a booklet. Now, this past week on our Monday Night Live class, I teach class every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern for free, called Monday Night Live. This last one was the longest class I've taught online in Zoom, the Monday Night Live class, since I've been doing it for 7 years, 2.5 hours. Everybody stood on glued to the tube because we went over what's called the booklet campaign. The booklet campaign is not a newsletter. It's it's modeled after a financial planner's booklet. So if you've ever been to a financial planner, they're going to at one point give you a booklet, and there you're going to open it up, and it's got stocks, bonds, mutual funds, performance data, pro forma data, prospective data, things like that. All I did, guys, going back maybe 15 years, is I decided, well, I can do the same thing in real estate, and I'll swap out the stocks, bonds, and mutual funds for flips and duplexes and fourplexes, and that's exactly what I did. And it was pretty ugly in the beginning. The publication, and I look good up here, but I'm not a very clean, neat person when it comes to the creative world. So, but nonetheless, the data was good, the facts were good, and I always gave them a recent article. I gave them samples of properties that have recently sold, flips, and rentals. Okay, and I would give them some type of a tool or a methodology they can use to invest themselves, and I would give it to everybody. Not just investors. I'd give it to regular owner occupants. Anybody in my database got that. Okay. We also form niche groups. We would build special versions of booklets just for dentists, just for pilots. There's a number of groups based on location that we cater to specifically in a customized way. We would use their language. Okay. So we had the market, and let's just say the dentist. We crafted our messaging to match what dentists recognize terminology, and we used a media that worked very well, the media being the booklet, because you go to any dentist office, you got a reception area with a rack of magazines and a coffee table with magazines, and this thing was shaped same size as a magazine, except I had a picture of a nice home on the front, and I had a nice caption, and people would pick it up and read it and call us, and then the dentist, we would get that business too. So in any case, the other thing we would do is we would research the real estate market. We have tools on our team that allow us to get data on every single parcel of property in the country. Nothing, no stone left unturned. I mean, every parcel and every owner, by the way. So we know how long somebody's owned the property, whether they pay their property taxes. We get all kinds of we get all the usual stuff too. Everybody can get bankruptcy, probate, and foreclosure data. Hi, Gary here. Just want to say thanks real quick for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate you doing that. And all I want to do is take a quick minute to introduce you to the Healing House Foundation. Okay, so if you're watching this on video, I'm going to let you see it. If you're on podcast, you're not going to be able to see it, but you can see it in the click on the show notes on globalinvestoragent.com, and you can see, well, that's the main website, globalinvestoragent.com. This is a great place for you to connect, not just with me, but with all the agents we have around the country, and check it out. But more importantly, if you click on the Healing House Foundation, okay, you can read all about it. And this is a 501(c), totally voluntary. Nobody here makes a dime. So all the proceeds, 100%, go to local needs in your area where you live for people that need help, all walks of life. I mean, every one of us knows somebody that needs help. And this is our way to come back full circle in the world of real estate where we make so much money. Let's help those who are in need. Sometimes they need a helping hand. Sometimes they need to be taught how to fish, and sometimes they just need to fish. Sometimes they need both. So this is a way for you to participate. Check it out. All kinds of stories, examples. It's very flexible in that we can earmark funds for a particular need that you have in your area, as long as it's related to the need of housing. That's all. It doesn't matter what the underlying circumstances are. We pray for healing for everybody. So in any case, thanks for indulging me. Let's get back to the podcast, including us, but we get other really good data that most people don't pay attention to too much. So we would write letters, and these letters are short, about a 1 paragraph long. We don't say anything at all about our credentials. We don't tell them about we're ABR and we're CRS and we're number one. They don't care about that stuff. They don't even know what it means. Okay. In fact, we don't even put a letterhead on a letter. We know letterhead. Okay. We do, and we go right in. It's everyone is individual and personal. Dear Gary, right? I'm writing to you about your property located at 123 Main Street. And then we go on 7 sentences long. And we use the word you or your 10 times in those 7 sentences. And we use the phrase sell for twice. We don't use what your property's worth. We use what your property would sell for. Okay. And at the bottom is where we disclose that we're real estate agents. Okay. Remember, I'm an investor first and an agent second. So we use that letter to approach the owners of the properties that we know based on data are more likely to be interested in selling. Okay. And by the way, current affairs right now is your best friend. My gosh, if anybody doesn't realize it now, we're obviously have hit the top of the market and we're getting ready to head down. So anybody looking to sell better sell now, or they could be waiting 10 years before the market goes back up again. This last cycle has been greater than a 10-year cycle. Really unusual. Okay. But in any case, we know the Congress, the current administration wants to eliminate 1031 exchange under over 500,000, I think. Also, they want to raise capital gains taxes. So there's a lot of reasons for people to sell now. Okay. And think about somebody who's owned a property 25 or 30 years. They've already depreciated it, right? Or if it's their own home, they probably got it paid off, and maybe they want to move to Florida. So let them sell their house in the north and move on down to the south and have a jolly old time. And when the market looks like it's down or on the way down, then they buy a house down there. It's a great strategy. So this applies to owner occupants and investors alike. Okay. So in any case, so you got the booklet. Okay. And on my team, everybody does a booklet every single month forever. Okay. And it's the only campaign, by the way, I've ever seen, whether it's mine or anybody else's, where I know 2 examples, 2 agents where they batted 1,000. They literally sent out a batch of booklets and every single one turned into a transaction. I've seen it twice on that one campaign. I've never seen that with any other campaign. Okay. So you got the booklet, you've got the letter. Oh, by the way, in the letter, when you send that out, you want to handwrite the recipient's address. Okay. Handwrite the recipient's address. That increases your open rate to probably about as close to 100% as you can get. Okay. And the letter, it's not a sales pitch letter. It's an offer letter. We're not saying I want to buy your house. We're saying, I have clients interested in buying houses just like yours. And we name the specific type of property, single family, townhome, whatever, duplex. I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. However, inventory is tight. And I got clients like Mr. Manajasic, for example, or Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, who want to buy a property just like yours in your area. Okay. In any case, that's part of the letter language. So you can replay this podcast and get yourself some free language patterns there. So we use language patterns and embedded commands. All right. So letters number 2. The third thing is this, guys. I hope you have some interest in investing for yourself. My gosh, you're in the real estate business. You should own some real estate, not just your own home, but flip a house. My gosh, buy a rental. And if you're thinking, hey, Gary, I don't even know how to do that. I don't have any money. All the typical answers I get. Nobody's born with the money. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some people are born with the money. I wasn't one of them. Okay. But nobody knows how to do this stuff. So you learn. And that's what we teach. Monday Night Live, that class, that's what we do. Okay. It's a 100% education-based class, and it's free. In fact, on the show notes on the podcast, I'll put the link in so you can register for class. And you can go to as many as you want. There's no charge, no obligation, nothing like that at all. It's just straight educate the community. So in your case, the agent community. But in any case, speaking of communities, I want you to join a local investor club. Now, REIA is the 800-pound gorilla in the world of investor clubs. REIA, Real Estate Investors of America. There's another organization called ACRE, ACRE, American Congress of Real Estate. That was the original one, going back in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s. And REIA kind of took over. They both actually have the same parent organization, by the way. And I've been members of both. I've been speakers for both. I was a keynote speaker, one of the REIA national cruises a few years back. I shared the stage with the president, by the way. It's pretty neat. Little old Gary Wilson. So In any case, the way I got there was I joined my local organization and started networking with everybody, getting some deals, getting some transactions, learning about the vendors. And gradually I'd get invited to do a little cameo up in front of everyone or be on a panel or write an article. You can do that. And more, I know agents that I personally taught started off that way, and now they run the organization. They get all that business. So that's the third thing, right? There's lots of things you can do. I'm not even going to get into, Facebook and LinkedIn and all that, things you should do. But I'm telling you this, and this is going to sound crazy because we have all the stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn. It all does work. But we have found that the fundamental, it's just like basketball, baseball, football, hockey. The team that practices the fundamentals on a regular basis is the team that wins, okay? So that's what we do. Booklet, letter, local community group. Those three things you should have at a minimum going on at all times. And if you are not doing it now, you need to start. This again, do not wait, okay? Start now. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor. Don't be one of the people waiting to see what's going to happen, because you're going to see it after it happens. That's the irony of that approach is once it happens, it's too late. You're watching it go by in front of you. Then you're playing catch up with all the other agents. That's no fun. I've been to conferences like the last recession where people waited too late and they're trying to come in and get all these bank deals. It was embarrassing, the behavior. I was embarrassed for our industry. Okay. And by the way, the asset managers, they don't look at your applications. Okay. I used to work for a bank. They look at your performance. They have access to broker metrics, just like our brokers do. Okay. They see how you're producing. And if you're not producing and you're not selling foreclosures and you don't have any experience with that, don't expect to get those contracts. Okay. We had HUD, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of them, because we did a lot of investor deals. A lot of investor deals involved foreclosures. So, which leads me to one more thing, and we're going to wrap this up. When you do that, okay, obviously in a recession, there's more foreclosures. When you show a track record of helping a lot of people buy a lot of properties, i.e. investors, who buy multiple properties, not just one, and some of them are foreclosures, that's trackable and measurable, and that's what the banks and asset managers look like. That's what they look at. So, any case, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Feel free to join us every Monday night between now and the end of August. The date the podcast here is it's mid-July. Between now and the end of August, we're going to go over the fundamentals: booklet, letter, being part of a local community group for investors, and also phone calling. How do you phone call? What do you say on the phone? And what's interesting is for all you investors out there, all these techniques came from the investor world. I developed them as an investor. I didn't develop them as a broker. I developed them as an investor and taught the agents how to use them. And then I built a brokerage company out of that. I don't have it. Years ago, I merged it, but now I run a national team. It's called the Global Investor Agent Team. In fact, you can go to globalinvestoragent.com. And if you're an investor, select an agent off of there because it doesn't cost you a dime. And it'll work for you, and they work on a commission basis, and you don't even pay the commission if you're buying, which is what you should be doing here. And if you're an agent, you'd be crazy not to do this. My gosh, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can add more tools to your tool belt. Join a team that's right now the number one team in the country as far as it's a genuine recognized team. It's an official team with agents in more than half the states. We have presence in more than half the states. And no other team can claim that. People will talk about their downlines, but that's not a team. That's their downline. Okay. So any case, we do quite well. In fact, the last quarter, we outproduced the NAR average, the NAR production average per agent. We outproduced it by 2-1. So any case, hope you take advantage of that, guys. I want to get this out there because it's so timely and it's so critical. And I remember what happened the last recession. It was hard watching a lot of my friends leave the business because they just didn't know what to do. But the brokerage I had at the time, Win Realty Advisors, we grew sixfold during the first 3 years of the recession. And then I merged or sold the company. So in any case, go ahead and go to globalinvestoragent.com. Click on the, I think it says learn more, get more information, something like that. It's really easy. And, we'll have a conversation and see where you want to go with this. And but at a minimum, join us on Monday Night Live class. You'll get the link right here in the show notes. And I will see you on the next podcast. Take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families. And have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.